trying to say words don't come straight from my head to my mouth. It's such a shame that it fell out of place. Was never me that was bringing you down. Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? Always looking for more. Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you Why we always looking for more? Why we always looking for more? Been trying to change what I've been trying to say. Words don't come straight from my head to my mouth. It's such a shame that it fell out of place. Was never me that was bringing you down.
Warning: the Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to one of the most historic racetracks on a racing circuit. Doesn't matter whether it's stock cars, open wheels, any type of motorsports driver will tell you if there's a place they want to take a checkered flag at, it is here, the home of the Yard of Bricks, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We mentioned at the beginning of the season that the schedule got a big of a shakeup. From seasons 1 to 5, Indianapolis was the first elimination race of the playoffs. It has now been moved way up the scheduling order, and it is the 7th venue for season 6 of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. Now, while its landscape on the schedule list might have changed, that doesn't mean that this racetrack isn't as prevalent, as prevalent a part to play into the outcome of who's going to be our eventual champion. Instead of determining who's going to be moving on to the next round of the playoffs, it's going to be a determining factor into who's going to make the playoffs. And so far here in the first 6 races, we've had 6 different drivers go to victory lane. We're continuing on the streak, 4 races in a row now where we've had a driver get their first career win. Daniel Voiles, the most recent of those last week when North Wilkesboro made its debut on the Duracell Cup Series schedule, and that was an amazing race to see. I don't think we've had a single unentertaining race this entire season so far, and still a long ways to go. We're now about the midway portion of the first half of the regular season. Drivers not only getting themselves early preparation to make it into the playoffs, but also we've got the All-Star race looming, and you win a race between now and that All-Star race, you've got an automatic locked-in ticket into the main event. You won't have to go through the All-Star Open. So another thing for these drivers to shoot for as they're trying to get that elusive checkered flag. It'll be 48 laps of racing here today at this 2.5 mile speedway. It's the third speedway of that length that we've had so far this season. Of course, we opened up the year at Daytona. We were at Pocono a few weeks ago, and now we're here at Indianapolis. So some bigger speedways for these drivers to have to try and tackle in the early portion of the season. Matt Haas lines up on the pole position. Matt's been one of the top 5 most consistent drivers this season. He's 4th in overall standings, 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s in the first 6 races, and he's only 34 points outside of the points lead as well. But he's been close a couple of times of getting that checkered flag. The most recent, the last 2.5 mile racetrack we were at Pocono, where he got bested on the last lap by Joshua Osborne. So trying to get some redemption here today, as he will start on point alongside of a driver who's already found victory lane this season, and that is the 33 of Mitchell Collins. Now, Ford only has 1 victory here previously in the Duracell Cup Series. That was back in Season 3, and that was with a Michael Norman Motorsports driver, Michael Norman himself. That was actually a season where he had back-to-back victories in the round of 16. So Mitchell Collins will look to be the first repeat winner on the season. Chris Dollerton, we talked about last week, the likelihood that with the poor performance he had at North Wilkesboro, he may drop back outside the top 25 in point standings. That is indeed true. He's 31st in the point standings coming to this race. So coming in today, if we looked at our playoff standings, 5 drivers are locked in via wins, with our other 5 previous winners inside the top 15 in points. That would mean that 11 drivers right now would be sitting in playoff positions via points, but a long ways to go in the regular season. A lot can change between then and now, and we're ready to find out what's going to happen here today at Indy. Time to go down trackside, get those most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
Pace car going to lead the field down the front straightaway here as they were parked right in front of that yard of bricks. The start-finish line here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You'll see your starting lineup on the right side of your screen to be followed by the previous winners here at Indy. 3 of the previous winners are in the field here today. Dylan Poteet, Austin LaPlante, and Michael Norman. The last 2 previous winners here, Jacob Thibodeau, Trent Dunham, not in the field. So for a number of drivers here, they'd be looking for their first win of their career here at Indianapolis. Top 10, the points look like this. William Hoer continues to be at the top of the point standings. Got his points lead eaten into a little bit last week after North Wilkesboro. He now holds only 26 points over new second-place driver Levi McIntyre. Ali Liera sits third, 33 points out. Matt Haas in fourth, 34 points back. And 35 points back in fifth is Mitchell Collins. So you've got 2 drivers inside the top 5 in points on your front row today. Michael Norman, former winner here, is 6th in the standings. Jack Donard, former winner this season, rolling off 4th. He's 7th in standings. Charles Sanford is up inside the top 10 in points. He's 8th. RJ Bishop dropped to 9th. And last week's winner, Daniel Voiles, leaped up 14 spots from 24th to 10th in overall standings. 54 points separate the top 10 in overall. Only driver that's inside of the top 25 but outside the top 10 in points is Joshua Osborne. He is 15th in overall standings coming into today's race. Well, there are 4 places that everybody wants to win at. They want to win the 500, they want to win the Coke 600 at Charlotte, they want to win at Darlington, and they want to win here at Indianapolis, the 4 crown jewel races. Chris Dalwerton's already won Daytona. Who's going to get to kiss the yard of bricks? We're 48 laps away from finding out as down the long straightaway towards the flag stand, Matt Haas gonna get us under the green at the Brickyard. Down the back straightaway, they snake. They were 3 wide through 1 and 2. Caleb Fogler picking up a couple of positions, putting Laura Chung in the middle, one half of the defending champions, Caleb Fogler. As they remain 2 by 2 into 3 and 4. Matt Haas, Mitchell Collins trying to figure out who's going to get the advantage. Looks like the inside line definitely gets the advantage through the center of 3 and 4 as we got some contact there between Mitchell Collins and Reggie Fogelman. That was very nearly our first caution for the 3rd position. They both had to bail out of the throttle and stacked up the whole outside line in their recovery, but fortunately we did avoid the yellow. That allows the top 2 to scamper away, Haas and Fogler. Noah Hendrickson will now move into 3rd with Sam Ryder and Zachary Fitzwater completing the top 5. Top 8 gets single filed out with Collins, Batson, and Young, and now Ali Liera was in a side-by-side battle with Reggie Fogelman. It's like now the top 11 have gotten themselves single filed out, and we're going to see this happen during the entirety of the field. They start out double wide, they'll get themselves strung out single file, and then it's kind of a pick your moments in 1v1 battles here. Because while Indianapolis is a big track in length, it's not really a very wide racetrack, especially here in the corners. It's a rounded edge rectangle if you look at it from aerial view, and from 1 to 2 and 3 to 4, that straightaway in between those 2 corners, it's very narrow. It's almost 1 lane. It's very treacherous, believe it or not, to go through these particular corners double wide because there's not a lot of banking for that outside car to be able to lean on. They push out too far, they're going to get the wall off of 2 and 4. Rookies for 3rd. Ryder in the 63. Fitzwater in the 66. Fitzwater not able to make a move just yet. Noah Hendrickson had worked his way up towards the top 5. Now he's been kicked out to the outside line. Mitchell Collins looking to pick up a position as we've got a battle on for the lead up ahead. Caleb Fogler shows the nose to the inside of Matt Haas. Maybe a little contact there between those 2 coming out of 4. Fogler keeping his foot inside the door there. Drag race to the start-finish line. Who leads the lap? Side drafting, give it to Fogler by about a wheel. was a bit of a struggle to the start of the year for both of the co-defending champions of the series, Caleb Fogler and Kyle Matthews. They've since seemed to kind of get it turned around. Kyle Matthews now 20th in points, Caleb Fogler 25th. Both of these drivers at one point were outside the top 35 in the standings, so they've done a nice job of rebounding, and still plenty of regular season to go as they look to win their way into the playoffs to defend their championship crowns. Keith Batson and Dylan Young, couple of Fords going to work there on Zachary Fitzwater. Move Batson to second, Young into third place, and pole sitter Matt Haas has finally made his way back down to the inside line. There's his teammate stepping out there with him, Noah Hendrickson. Both Haas and Hendrickson coming off top 10 runs last week at North Wilkesboro. Our statisticians doing some work during the course of the week between North Wilkesboro and today. For those that may or may not have been wondering, in terms of Daniel Voiles, an interesting statistic. Mentioned the fact he had a non-charter win prior to his victory last week at North Wilkesboro at Watkins Glen back in Season 4. But last week, he picked up his first career victory in his 26th start. Ironic, he drives the number 26. He had 8 starts back in Season 4. Drove 12 races, obviously, splitting time in a car last year. And then 6 starts this season. And had that checker flag last week, so interesting how the numerology worked itself out in that way. See that bump there on the back straightaway. You got to wonder just how much these drivers feel that when they go over it. At over 170 miles per hour, 175 for Caleb Fogler going into the corner. Chevrolet looked like it was starting to counter the stranglehold that Ford's had on Victory Lane at the beginning of the season. You had Joshua Osborne and Jack Dunard in back-to-back races finding Victory Lane, but then last week, Ford stepped back up with Daniel Voiles. So Ford has 4 victories this season. Chevrolet has 2. Toyota and Mazda, obviously, still trying to break into winner's circle. Bit of a split from Zachary Fitzwater, who's in the 9th position, back to 10th place Cole Deaver. Telemetry is saying it's about a second, maybe a second and a 10th. We'll see if they're going to be able to reel the top 9 back in, as now Ryan Brommer looks to the inside of Cole Deaver for that spot. This is not going to aid them in running down that lead pack. They need that lead pack to be racing it up a bit too, if they're going to be able to catch the draft and get back up to them. They are racing up here in this first pack. Hendrickson and Quentin Moore, a couple of rookies duking it out for 5th place. Moore's going to be stuck in the longer way around the racetrack. See him have to bail out of the throttle there as the car gets tight off of turn 1, heading up towards that short straight between 1 and 2. So Hendrickson up to the 5th position, Collins to 6th. And then Ryder and Fitzwater into 7th and 8th, as Caleb Fogler now has a new Ford behind him to deal with. That's Dylan Young in the 2 car, who just got around Keith Batson that last lap. And then here come the Yodas, teammates out of Haas Racing. This season's been really interesting because we've seen different sides of most of our races this season. The long green flag runs with green flag pit stops, and then the utter chaos at the conclusion. Last week, first short track stop of the season, we ended up seeing a round of green flag pit stops. We saw a round of green flag pit stops at Pocono. We ended up seeing some late cautions in those races that shook things up. Have a round of green flag pit stops at Phoenix? I can't recall. Not sure. I think we did. this racetrack, Indianapolis, when it comes to green flag pit stops, I think there's maybe not as many tracks on the circuit where green flag pit stops really play a huge factor in terms of track position, because it's a long pit road for one thing. It's very easy to get onto, but a lot depends on just how well you get onto pit lane and how well you leave, because you've got that access road from the entrance of turn 1 all the way to the exit of turn 2. It's flat, there's no banking, you put a tire wrong off into the grass, you're more than likely going to spin around. So a lot of execution from cone to cone, and even from pit road entry access road to pit road exit access road, a lot really comes into play into whether you're going to maintain or improve your track position prior to the green flag pit stop. Also, too, one wouldn't really think about it, but with these long straights on the front and back, draft is a premium importance. And so if it's much like a super speedway, if you come out all by yourself and have no one to draft with on these long straights, you're not going to get the optimal speed, and you are going to lose ground on whoever you're trying to reel in, and subsequently lose ground to whoever might be trying to reel you in if they've got a drafting buddy. Tell you who's got a drafting buddy right now, and that is Matt Haas. His rookie teammate Noah Hendrickson's been right there with him. They've been nose to tail and working their way back up to the front. Couldn't coordinate anything there going into turn 3 to try and get Keith Batson, but they still remain locked up, and we'll see if they can do something here out of 4 and onto the front straightaway. Batson, I'm trying to remember the last time the 39 was out in front here. Has he even led a lap this season? I don't know. I don't have that stat in front of me. But at least to my immediate knowledge, I don't recall the KB Racing Enterprises car out in front in a race here so far in the first 6 races. So nice to see him out there leading a couple of laps. He got kicked to the high side though, no surprise. The Toyota's working together against the lone Ford. Dylan Young's going to take advantage and move on by for 3rd place. Mitchell Collins will tuck in line. Batson's got a teammate right back there in Samuel Ryder in the 63, so those two might hook up. Whoa! That was close between Ryder and Collins. Well, we did this last week, and it was pretty popular. Let's go on board the Shell Pennzoil Ford Mustang and take a listen to what it's like to run around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway at high speed. It's amazing when you listen in there, the off the throttle time. You could even hear Mitchell Collins have to get on the brake a couple of times. I looked to see if maybe he was downshifting in the corners, but no, he was just so hard on the brakes. As there's some definite contact there between Rick Johnson and Ryan Brommer, but he was so hard on the brakes, it sounded like he was downshifting the tone of the engine. Samuel Ryder was all over the back of Mitchell Collins when we were on board with him. You can now see he has faded back in that 63 and getting held up behind the 87 of Ryan Brommer, who lost momentum off 4 after he and Rick Johnson got together. Didn't help Samuel Ryder one bit. Keep your eyes on this driver, Benjamin Miles in the 25. Remember that list we showed you of the previous winners? Well, Northeast Motorsports has 2 victories here at this racetrack. Ooh, that's close. Austin LaPlante in Season 2 and Jacob Thibodeau in Season 4. As a matter of fact, Thibodeau was the replacement for Benjamin Miles in Season 4 when Miles stepped aside and went to more of an administrative post at Northeast Motorsports, came back in Season 5 with Legend Racing, and now back full-time with Northeast Motorsports. We had an exchange for the lead between teammates. Noah Hendrickson spent a good deal of time pushing Matt Haas. Now they've swapped roles. Keith Batson and Dylan Young right there with him. And how about the rookie Quentin Moore in the 89? We talked about this after the Pocono race, how Joanna Atwood Motorsports has gotten so many drivers their first career wins. We might have some pitting going on here. 16 laps in, and yeah, pit road is about to become a busy place. The teammates coming in, and they're the only 2. Nobody else coming in with the Haas Racing Camrys. There's nobody else here either. I don't know, I kind of like this strategy, and I kind of don't like this strategy. But going back to what I was saying, Quentin Moore out of Joanna Atwood Motorsports might be in line to get his first career win here today. Much like a super speedway, you got to have your hand out the window down this back straightaway saying, I'm coming to pit road, don't run me over in 3 and 4. While it is an easy pit road to get onto, as mentioned, the exit of these corners is narrow, so you got to make sure that you give enough room to the outside for anybody that's staying out to be able to swing around you and not run to the back of you. How many hands do we have out the window here? Does anybody come to pit lane? The lap after, we saw both of the Haas Racing cars on pit lane. Yep, there's a number of them coming down. Matter of fact, it's just about everybody, with the exception of the 16 of Ali Liera. I don't see anybody else staying out. It's only the 16. So Ali Liera is going to lead a lap. 3rd in points coming into this race, Ali Liera. So right now would be in a playoff position via points position, but looking for that first victory of the season. You saw just ahead, that was the 2 Toyotas of Haas and Hendrickson who've returned to the track. We'll have to wait and see where they cycle them out. Remember, they pitted from 1st and 2nd place. Here comes Liera to pit road in the 16. All by your lonesome. Going to be a very empty pit road, so plenty of opportunity to be able to attack her pit stall. There you see the rest of that lead group just now leaving pit road. One of the few pit lanes here that's got a wall between the racetrack and the pit lane. We've seen how this particular pit road can be very congested. Contact can be made, so if we end up having anything that happened on pit road, you'll certainly be made known of it via the NNSCRA split cam. As right there was, I believe, the exchange for the lead. Noah Hendrickson getting around the 39 of Keith Batson. So Hendrickson should indeed be out in front when all is said and done. Matt Haas was not as lucky to leapfrog the 39. He's right now going to look like being 3rd with Caleb Fogler and Dylan Young, the top 5. There's the 16 of Liera. Just now down the access road, so we'll have to wait and see where she cycles around to. 2nd place, exchanged. Give it to the 8 of Matt Haas. So Haas Racing back up to 1st and 2nd, where they were when the pit stop cycles began. So I guess coming down pit road together was not a bad call. Put them right back where they were. Batson's going to be 3rd, Fogler in 4th, and Dylan Young will complete the top 5. Looks like Rick Johnson will cycle out to 6th, Quentin Moore in 7th. Ali Liera is going to be in 8th, so that strategy worked out well for her. Still inside the top 10. Ninth place under contest. This is ninth back to 12th. Fitzwater, Miles, Snyder, and Mills. Three wide back here. Woo. James Qualls, Ryan Brommer, and Mitchell Collins. I don't know if Ryan Brommer, if that contact that I see, that damage on the right side, if that was from pit lane, or if he got up into the wall here, or what's happened, but there is definitely visible right side damage on that Twix Toyota. Doesn't to be affecting him speed-wise, but it's there. Wonder if we subsequently would be able to find a car in the field that's got some left side damage. That might give us an idea of who he might have gotten into. Of course, there's every possibility he may have gotten up and into the wall as well. Cycled through the field here. There's Levi McIntyre, second in points. Picked up 3 spots in the standings after a good run last week at North Wilkesboro. 26 points behind William Hoer coming into this race, and Hoer to the inside of McIntyre, so they're right in the same vicinity, neither gaining nor losing points to each other. Got another group back here. This is 28th on back. Nathan Ormond, who had a strong car last week at North Wilkesboro. The winning car, Daniel Boyles, trying the inside on Cody Lamas. It's Anthony McCurry in the 61. He had a good run last week. Jumped up 3 spots in standings to 38th. And there's Chris Dollerton, who right now is 32nd, trying to get himself back into the top 25 in points. The gap between him and 25th in the standings right now is 9 points. So not much, but certainly not going to make his way in there, I don't think, running in the 32nd position. And you have a group even further back here. Shelton, her teammate, Kyle Matthews, RJ Bishop, a former winner here at this racetrack, Austin LaPlante in this group, and Carson Gum in the 19, who probably had one of the heartbreaks of the race last week. Was in 11th position with 2 laps to go and was running out of fuel, had to make a last-minute dive to pit lane and subsequently finished way down in the running order. That also hurt him in the point standings. The former champ is 26th in points coming into this race. And then here's the rest of the field, 40th, 41st, and 42nd, who must right now be jumping up and down, screaming for a caution. Dylan Poteet, Charles Sanford, and Ryan Butcher. Sanford, who we mentioned at the top of the program, has for the first time this season jumped up into the top 10 in points. He's 8th in the standings. Dylan Poteet, who is 39th. And Ryan Butcher is currently 17th in points. They're all on the lead lap, all 42 cars still, but man, a lot of those drivers back there, they need a caution to get them back into the hunt. Keith Batson has now gotten back to the front in the 39 car. When he hits the line, we'll be halfway home in this race. You've got 6 cars up in this lead pack, and then it's almost 4 seconds before you get back to 7th place Zachary Fitzwater. So unless we have a caution to bunch everybody back up, it may be these 6 to decide it. And this front group could get even smaller depending on what happens on our next round of green flag pit stops, which, if what we saw was the furthest they could go, we're only about 8 laps away from when they're going to have to dive back onto pit lane once again. So far, the laps led counter is a tie between Noah Hendrickson and Caleb Vogler. They've led 6 laps apiece. That was the 5th lap. That was led by Keith Batson. 4 laps led by Matt Haas. 2 laps led by Ali Liera. And then Dylan Young's been out in front for 1 circuit. So far, those have been the lap leaders here today. Fastest lap laid down so far has been by Dylan Young in the 2 car. 52.277. That equals out to 172.066 miles per hour. Dylan Young started this race from the 17th position, and right now he's running in 4th. Another driver that started deep in the field was Rick Johnson, the 93. He rolled off the grid in 32nd, and there you see him right now holding down the 5th position, the rookie out of Michael Norman Motorsports, and oh, that was nearly the first caution of the day. Wow! What a save by both Keith Batson and Matt Haas in what was a battle for 3rd that nearly went horribly, horribly wrong. That's worthy of an NNSCRA split cam replay. My goodness. How did they keep those cars pointing in the right direction? I thought that was the caution. I thought that was the yellow flag that was going to change this whole thing up. It very nearly was, and now the top 2 have really opened up a ton of daylight. Noah Hendrickson and Dylan Young, and Dylan's not going to wait. He shows the nose. Thought about going for the lead there in turn 1, but couldn't do it. Didn't have enough momentum. Now can 3rd through 6th, can they draft back up to him? And you got to wonder with the momentum they lost, does that give any hope to this group being led by Benjamin Miles, 7th place on back? They did chip into the 2nd pack's lead just a little bit that last time by. We'll have to see about this time by, as that first group there, or that first big group I should say, they're kind of trying to recover and gain back the speed and momentum that they lost. Well, they're going to lose more momentum because, well, never mind. I thought Fogler was pitting. He looked like he was running slower and low down there on turn 4, but no. Might actually have just been waving the 8 car of Matt Haas on by. Actually, look closely. Is there damage on the 28? Almost looks like the hood might be buckled. Let's see if we can get a better angle, but I think he's got some front end damage perhaps. And I don't know if that would have been from that incident with Haas and Batson or not. I might just be visibly seeing things, but it looked like there might have been a bit of a buckle on the hood of the 28. We're about 3 to 4 laps away from when these drivers should start thinking about coming to pit road again. And for those wondering, keeping tabs on that second group, they are running lap times faster than the first group. That last time by, they ran a lap time that was about 3 to 4 tenths quicker. Let's see about this time by. Caleb Fogler, last car in this pack, who would have gotten the optimal draft, ran a 52.935. Lead car of the second group, which is now Ali Liera, ran a 53.183. As a matter of fact, big reason for that is Benjamin Miles got freight trained, and now they've stacked up, so that this second group has broken up, and they've lost their momentum. So if the calculations are correct, it looks like these drivers would have to make one more pit stop before the conclusion of this race, not counting the upcoming pit stop. This upcoming pit stop that they make, they'd have to make one more trip to pit road, possibly. This is really close, because remember, we had most of our leaders come down pit road between laps 16 to 17. I mentioned the fact that as the groups of cars get smaller, the fuel window dwindles. It will actually be less laps that they can complete on a tank of fuel, especially if you're the race leader. So if you consider that 16 might have been the medium that these drivers could go, take a 48 lap race, split it or divide it by 16, you've got 3 stints, 2 pit stops separating it. So this may not be the final pit stop of the day coming up. Teammates trying to work together here in 7th and 8th. Zachary Fitzwater and Ali Liera out of EGM. It's hard to tell if they're closing in or not. For Allie, all she wants to do is get just a whiff of draft off the last car. If she can do that, she can tow this second group up into that lead pack. You can see him down the back straightaway, but I think right now that equals out to roughly about 2.3 seconds. I think you've got to be about 1.8, 1.7 if you're able to get the benefit of the draft. Now, they're double wide here in this pack. Side by side for third, side by side for fifth, so that's going to help that group behind them to catch. Problem is, though, by the time they catch, then most everybody will be diving onto pit lane, so it's a little too late. Let's see how it plays out there. Remember, Ali Liera was the last one to come to pit road. We should bear that in mind, squirrel that one away for later on, if indeed it comes down to who's going to make it on fuel, because if Ali stays out an extra lap this time, she might be one of the few that can make it the entirety of this race. We're going to be coming to the completion of lap 32, which I believe if they can come around, complete this lap, and then pit the next time by, they should be able to make it. Everybody should be able to make it. They would have gone about 16 laps on this stint. But if we have drivers coming to pit road here, coming to the completion of lap 32, then there might be a question mark, and the two of Dylan Young, the 80 of Noah Hendrickson, they're going to stay out. So the possible conspiracy as far as who can make it on fuel may be a moot point. Everybody might be able to make it the rest of the way now on the upcoming pit stop. Remember, the first two that came to pit road were the 8 and the 80. So watch for Hendrickson and Matt Haas to maybe be the first two on pit road again this cycle. Hendrickson would do it from the second spot. Matt Haas right now in fifth. Dylan Young's been out in front for about 6.5 laps. Wonder if he would come to pit road with the 80, who shows the nose to the inside. Now, is this a attempt to pass for the lead, or is this just trying to make sure that Hendrickson's going to have that inside lane coming to pit road? Let's see. Backed off a little bit there through 3 and 4. I thought might be coming to pit road, but nope. All right, now things are looking pretty bleak for about 21st place on back. Levi McIntyre in that 21st position is 14 seconds behind the race leader. And there are still a lot of big names that are towards the rear of the field that really need a caution to get themselves back into this hunt. I mean, outside the top 30, you've got Nick Gunther, Chris Dollerton, our Daytona 500 winner, former winner at this track, Austin LaPlante, Jessica Shelton, RJ Bishop, Kyle Matthews, Carson Gumm, Dylan Pote, Ryan Butcher, Charles Sanford. These are names that we're not used to seeing down at the bottom of the running order, as pit road is about to become busy. Hendrickson, I believe, up ahead. Yep, he dove to pit lane. Rick Johnson, Zachary Fitzwater, and Matt Haas. We knew the 8 and the 80 were going to be some of the first. Looks like the 93 and the 66 have joined them. Nathan Orman from further back, along with McIntyre, Banks, and Boland. Is that LaPlante back there, I believe, that also just dove onto pit lane? Shelton, Bishop, Gumm, Butcher, and Poteet. This is indeed going to be the final pit stop of the day, at least under green flag conditions. This is the money stop. Just as much pressure on the pit crews as there is on the drivers. Get the pit stop done as quickly as possible, but make sure that you've done everything. Get the lug nuts tight. As Dylan Young gonna slowly bring himself down to 55 miles per hour at the commitment line. Looks like everybody else is coming down with him. And nobody even back there towards the rear of the field is going to stay out an extra lap for a bonus point. So we'll stay with the 2 of Dylan Young. See if he'll cycle back out to the lead. Dylan Young qualified 17th. You can see he got himself a nice pit selection just before the start-finish line. A nice opening there, so he should get a nice launch leaving pit road. Doesn't have to worry about maneuvering his way around another car. There's Cody Lamas just now pulling in. Ooh, look out. Dylan Young almost pulling out into the path of Laura Chung, who was way back in the field. And Dylan Young gonna mash the throttle and try driving away from Ali Liera and Caleb Fogler, who were side by side coming off of pit road. Looks like Liera won that game of chicken. There's Hendrickson in the 80 car. Can he get up to D Young? I don't think he can. Dylan Young's gone. So now it's going to come down to raw speed, I think, as to who's going to win this thing. Hendrickson's going to have the advantage of 1 lap on his tires. They will have come up to temperature. But then, once Dylan Young gets his 1 out lap on his Goodyears, then things will even out and we'll get an idea of who's really just got the faster car. And there's still the possibility that a group of cars could reel in single cars. Still enough laps. Dylan Young crossing the line here in the lead. Just put us at 12 laps to go. So it's still going to take a while to get around this racetrack. I mean, look at this group of 3. Rick Johnson, Zachary Fitzwater, Ali Liera. They could definitely work together and reel in the top 2. Behind them, you got a group of 4. Caleb Fogler, Jose Mills, Keith Batson, and Benjamin Snyder. All Ford Mustangs. We know how well the Fords drafted at Daytona, so you got to think they'd produce some very good straightaway speed if they can get themselves organized and lined up. That's back to 9th. Benjamin Miles holding down the 10th position with Michael Norman. We haven't mentioned the 22 today, but former winner back in Season 3, won here in a Mustang. It was the number 18 Mustang at that time. And Michael Norman, he's been quietly one of the stronger cars here the last couple of weeks. Had a great outing at Pocono. Followed it up with a good run at Phoenix. He had a solid outing last week at North Wilkesboro. He's 6th in the point standings. So watch out for this 22. Reggie Fogelman's right there as well in the 24 car. So you got a couple of the Northeast Motorsports Chevrolets up here that could make something of this race. Fogelman has started out the season really good. He's kind of iced a little bit in the last couple of weeks. He's 13th in points, but Reggie was a surprise last year when he joined 4 Racing Enterprises, and everybody didn't really give that team a ghost of a shot since they were thrown together already into the start of the season with Chris Washer and Daniel Silla and Reggie Fogelman, and Fogelman ended up going to victory lane and shocked everybody. Well, this group of 2 is about to become a group of 5. And look at the drivers we've got in this group. Dylan Young. Last year, himself, RJ Bishop, and Adam Garcia, they could not find victory lane as they were splitting time in the 2 car. So it's been a bit of a winless streak for D. Young. Noah Hendrickson, who's been a strong rookie this year. Been riding a wave of momentum of back-to-back good finishes in the last couple of races, looking for his first career win. Same for Zachary Fitzwater there in the 66. Fitzwater split time in the 12 car last year that went to victory lane with Andrew Lemke, but Fitzwater's looking for his first career victory for Evans Gardner Motorsports. You got Rick Johnson, who made his series debut back at Daytona, driving a Michael Norman Motorsports Ford Mustang, and then Ali Liera, who we documented a couple of weeks ago, her last victory going all the way back to Season 2 at Dover. Hendrickson for the lead. For every single one of these drivers, it would be the first win of the season for them. For 3 of them, it would be the first win of their career. Liera and Dylan Young are the only 2 former winners. What about that second pack? Are they catching? They might be. Benjamin Snyder, Jose Mills, Caleb Fogler, all working together there still. As well as the Ford of Keith Batson. That group was 2/10 quicker than the lead group. But you can barely see them. They're coming off a turn 2 in this shot. They need these guys up here to race. And they need them to race it up a lot. If they stay single file, that's just really going to hurt that second pack. Because the problem is with that second pack being more cars, yeah, right there, you see, being more cars, you have more runs that are generated, and you got to take that run somewhere. Then when you go side by side, the side drafting doesn't actually speed you up past another car, it actually slows you both down. So it's almost like throwing out the parachute and allowing that lead pack to be able to get away. So while we've got battles up inside the top 5, this is all going on 6th place on back in the latter half of the top 10. Caution! Caution is out with 6.5 laps to go. And this changes everything. How many times have I said that this season? We need a counter of that because, my goodness, just when you think you've got it all figured out, the script is flipped. Skid marks there in the middle of 3 and 4. Yellow flag waves, and we've got ourselves an entirely new race here to close out the Brickyard. Oh my goodness. Zachary Fitzwater wins the battle back to pit lane. Or not to pit lane, to the start-finish line, I should say. I said pit lane because I was thinking to myself, if I said that, pit road will be open. Do you come to pit road for tires? I don't think you're going to need to come to pit road for fuel. I think these drivers were already going to make it on fuel, and if they weren't, if they were close, then the long laps that'll take you under pacing, they should be able to save enough. But is it going to be important enough to have that little bit of extra grip? What, about 7-8 laps would have been run on these tires depending on when you made that final pit stop. Is it worth coming to pit road? If you're towards the rear of the field, then maybe to pick up a few spots in the closing stages, because it's not going to be very many laps left in this one. I think more than likely we'll have 4 laps to go, 3 laps to go, somewhere in that vicinity when we get back to racing. I just don't see, if you're up here at the front, that coming to pit road would be beneficial. Let's see. Pit road's open. Does anybody come to pit lane from the top 5, top 10, even top 15? No. Can't say I'm surprised, so that gives us the opportunity to go back, take a look at what brought out the caution. May have been the 19 of Carson Gum, who was the last one to cross the start-finish line when they came back to receive the caution. I do see some damage on that number 19, and yes, the former champ is the reason for this caution coming out. Here it was. Joshua Osborne in the 27. This was for the 31st position, and Carson just gets run over. Like Carson took that corner a lot slower than Osborne was prepared to. And very lucky we didn't have more drivers involved there. I think that was Chris Dollerton and Ryan Butcher that very nearly hit him. There's another look at it here, another angle. Well, maybe. You can barely see it. Not the best of camera angles there. Who was that other car that just missed him? Was that Poteet? It was. Poteet was running the tire tracks of the 43 of Dollerton. Let's see if maybe we can get an onboard with somebody. Might be able to get one with the 83 of William Hoer. Looking ahead at the incident there, and saw Cody Lamas have to get left sides down there on the rumble strip, almost the grass. William Hoer having to give room to Justin Shelton. caution comes out here in the closing stages of yet another Duracell Cup Series race. The last 2.5 mile speedway that we were at, Pocono, we had a caution come out late in the race, and it ended up being a shootout. Will we end up seeing something along those lines here today? We're going to have to wait and see. Lights have not gone out top the pace car, as you can see there, which means we're going to have at least one more lap of pacing after this before we put them back green. So if the lights go out next time by, it will be a 2-lap sprint to the finish, 5 miles to sell this thing out. And just like that, a lot more drivers have been put up into the conversation to be able to fight for this victory. It's rookie stripes up here at the front. 3 rookies actually inside of the top 5. Fitzwater the leader. Noah Hendrickson in second. Ali Liera third. Rick Johnson's in fourth. And Dylan Young in fifth. Jose Mills is now up to sixth. Michael Norman seventh. Eighth Reggie Fogelman. Ninth Matt Haas. And Benjamin Miles will complete the top 10. Keith Batson is in 11th. James Qualls 12th. Ryan Brommer 13th. Quentin Morris 14th. And Mitchell Collins completes top 15. 16th, Jack Dunnard. 17th, Jesse Turner. Cole Deaver is 18th. 19th will be Caleb Fogler. I'm pretty certain did have that front end damage. That's why he fell as far back as he did. And then Rob Evans is going to complete the top 20. Carson Gunn was the only driver that came to pit lane here under this caution period. They've made repairs to the car, sent him back out. All 42 cars that started this race are still running and still on the lead lap. We are working our only caution up to this point. Not to say we haven't had a couple of caution scares between start of the race and now, but it's the first official caution that came out today after we had 2 cycles of green flag pit stops. We've had 7 drivers out in front here today. Caleb Fogler, Keith Batson, Matt Haas, Dylan Young, Ali Liera, Noah Hendrickson, and current race leader Zachary Fitzwater, as there's a sign right there. Lights out on the Toyota TRD pace car. It will be a green-white checker to decide today's race. You gotta go back to 15th place, Mitchell Collins, before you find a driver that has taken a checkered flag already this season. Your top 14 are all chasing their first checkered flag of the season. For 3 of your top 5, you are looking at drivers that are looking for the first win of their careers. Trying to extend that streak to 4 races in a row, following in the footsteps of William Hoer, Joshua Osborne, and Daniel Voiles. Bit of an up and down last couple of weeks for Zachary Fitzwater. Had a great run at Pocono. Was up in the top 10 in points. Struggled last week at North Wilkesboro. Subsequently fell 7 spots to 16th. As things stand right now, as far as the playoff picture, Fitzwater would be in the final spot. But he wants to win his way into the playoffs. He wants to lock himself into the playoffs. Can he do it? Well, make your bets. 5 miles. 1 driver is going to get this checkered flag in the second of the crown jewel races here in the Duracell Cup Series. Pace cars made the turn to pit road. The field is in the hands of Zachary Fitzwater, who leads us down the long straightaway. 2 laps to go here at the Brickyard. Ali Liera looked like she wanted to make a move on Noah Hendrickson, make it 1-2 for the Evans Gardner Motorsports Chevrolets, but just didn't have the momentum going into the first corner. Single file all the way back through about the top 15, top 20. Nobody willing to step out of line yet. Maybe they'll do it here in 3. Oh, Matt Haas had to check up back there. Benjamin Miles going to take advantage. That's the 9th position. But up at the front, they still say single file. Fitzwater, this time off turn 4, sees the white flag waving as they're stacked up 3 wide back there around the 10th spot. And the caution flag is out. That means that Zachary Fitzwater is going to cross the line, seeing the white and the yellow flag waving at the same time. And if he can make it back around here under pacing, Zachary Fitzwater is going to be the 3rd different rookie to go to victory lane here in the first 7 races of Season 6 of the Duracell Cup Series. Would he have been able to keep Noah Hendrickson at bay for another lap? We will never know. As the caution waves, it appears that it might have been Dylan Poteet that brought out this final caution of the day. We'll go back and we'll look at it in just a few moments, but we'll stay here with the race leader, make sure that he indeed does get back around to the start-finish line under power to pick up the first checkered flag of his career. I'd have to go back and check. I don't remember if Fitzwater made any Duracell Cup Series starts prior to last year. We know he's got 12 starts prior to Season 6. This would have been his 19th start if you combine Seasons 5 and 6 together. I don't remember if he was a non-charter driver back in Season 4 or not. We'll have the statisticians get on that for next week, but there you see the skid marks off of turn 4. Somebody spun down towards pit road. But it doesn't matter up at the front because Zachary Fitzwater is indeed going to make his way down, whether it be at 70 miles per hour or 170 miles per hour. He's the first car back to the start-finish line, and Zachary Fitzwater is going to win the crown jewel race at Indianapolis. He'll get to kiss the yard of bricks for his first career Duracell Cup Series win. Fitzwater started this race from the 13th position. He led 7 laps today. And did he just secure himself a spot in the playoffs with this victory? Only time will tell. So we'll take the opportunity here to go back and take a look at what happened to end this race under caution. Looks like maybe Jessica Shelton was also collected up in this. Dylan Poteet was not even able to limp his race car around under pacing to finish this race out. He had to be towed to the garage area. And where does this all start is the question. 24 of Reggie Fogelman, I believe, is who this begins with. Oh, might have been teammates that got together. Fogelman and Miles in what was a battle for 8th place, and this would have accounted for why I saw them spread out 3 wide coming off of 4 around this area of the field. Almost identical to what we saw happen between Carson Gum and Joshua Osborne, but this time you got the oncoming traffic that's going to get involved. Shelton nowhere to go as she was committed to the top side. Shoots the 24 down in front of Dylan Poteet. A couple of the Auto Junction Racing Toyotas, Ryan Butcher and Laura Chung got together. Carson Gum snaking his way past all these drivers. Picked up a couple of spots here in the closing stages. See if we get a better angle. We won't go with the angle that we had prior that gave us not much of a view. Watch the red car there. Shelton, she's committed to the top and just doesn't have the lane. Boy, that fender of Dylan Poteet went way up in the air. You can see it now come to rest down the exit of turn 4. He's the car that spun down towards pit lane. And look at Carson Gum. Keeps his foot in it, knows that he can pass a couple of cars before the start-finish line. He does. And that ends the race under yellow. And Zachary Fitzwater, as a result, is the winner of this race. Standings should be official, and indeed they are. Let's take a look at the final finishing results. Rookies first and second today with Fitzwater and Hendrickson. Ali Liera brings it home in third. Fourth place for Rick Johnson. Best finish of the season for him. And Dylan Young will complete the top 5. Jose Mills, Michael Norman, Matt Haas, Keith Batson, and Mitchell Collins. That's going to be your top 10 here today. 11th place is going to be James Qualls, Benjamin Miles, who was dead last in points. He might actually climb out of the cellar here today with a 12th place run. Quentin Moore in 13th, 14th for Jesse Turner and Ryan Brummer will complete the top 15. Top 20 was Jack Dunnard, Cole Deaver, Rob Evans, Destin Boland, and Anthony McCrory. Take a look at the rest of the finisher results down here. A couple of names that really jump out at you. Last week's winner, Daniel Voiles, in 30th. Points leader coming in today, William Hoer, back in 31st position. Where did Levi McIntyre finish? 24th. So he would have closed up a bit between himself and William Hoer, but I'm wondering about Ali Liera, who was 33 points back. Would Ali have been able to accumulate enough points today that she might be the new points leader going into next week? Not certain. We'll have to wait and see. Look at a lot of these names that were down here, though. Just really, I don't know what all put them in the back as it did. It might have been poor starting track position here today, but I also think it might have been like a lot of stack up that takes place if you're towards the rear and a long line of cars are coming to pit lane during those 2 cycles of green flag pit stops. Kyle Matthews, Charles Sanford, Joshua Osborne, Chris Dollerton, all way, way back here in the finishing results. Never made their way up there towards the front. Carson Gum was involved in the first wreck of the day, the first caution of the day, I should say, along with Reggie Fogelman and Ryan Butcher. They were the last cars to finish on the lead lap. Shelton finished a lap down as she came to pit road at the 1 to green. Could not finish the race under her own power, or the car could not finish under its own power with it leaking oil. And then Dylan Pote never was able to complete those final pace laps as he just brought it to pit lane and made the left-hand turn to the garage. He will subsequently finish dead last here today at Indianapolis. Wow, what a crazy race it was here today. And again, like I said, these Duracell Cup Series races, they have been so unpredictable. Just when you think you've got it all figured out, caution comes out, the landscape changes. Fortunately there for Zachary Fitzwater, that could have been a game changer for him. He was looking like he was pretty well in hand of that race lead and potentially race win. Had to hold him off for another 2 laps, and fortunately only had to hold him off for that 1 lap. Was able to lead that last lap under pacing to be able to pick up the victory. So congratulations to him on a job well done. That is his first career victory. That's the first win for Evans Gardner Motorsports since Andrew Lemke at Lime Rock last year. And now puts our 3rd different rookie in the conversation for a playoff position, joining Jack Dunnard and William Hoer. It also means that now Ford only has a 4-3 advantage over Chevrolet in the battle for checkered flags this season. And they'll continue that rivalry, will the manufacturers and the drivers alike, in our first road course stop of the season next week. We've been doing a lot of jumping back and forth from coast to coast. We were in Pocono on the East Coast. We then jumped over to the West Coast with Phoenix. We then went back to the East Coast again with North Wilkesboro, and now here kind of Midwest with Indianapolis. We go back to the West Coast next week when we're heading to wine country at Sonoma. Hope you guys will join us for that. If you enjoyed today's race here from Indianapolis, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We showed your full finishing results, and these are what the point standings look like heading into next week at the Sonoma Raceway. Until then, I've been Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your week. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NNSCRA TV. Offline racing at its best.